Welcome to In Search Of. We are the podcast for those seeking meaningful conversations and insights in the ever-evolving automotive industry. I'm your host, Dan Barker, and together we're going to explore some ideas and innovations shaping the future of automotive. So let's get started. Today, joining me, I've got Zach Billings, co-founder of Wikimotive. Hi, Zach.
Thanks for having us, Dan. Looking forward to it.
Also joining us today, we've got Tara Rego. Tara is the Director of Strategic Partnerships for Spectrum Reach. Zach and I had the pleasure of meeting Tara down at DMSC in Austin this year, and we're absolutely blown away with Tara's knowledge in the automotive space. So, Tara, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. Thank you so much. So, tell us, you've got quite the experience and breadth of knowledge in automotive. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got your start in automotive?
Well, the way I got my start was probably a little unconventional. I was in the Army originally, and when I got out of the Army, I was using that wonderful GI Bill and going to school, and I was a waitress at a very popular nightclub in Seattle, Washington. And one night I had a group of gentlemen sitting at a table, and they were wearing not so nice suits, but they thought they were super flashy. And I had a lot of fun with them. There's about 6 of them sitting at the table. I had a lot of fun with them. I upsold the snot out of them all night. And then one poor guy got stuck with the bill, and he was shaking his head, and I was nervous. I had done something wrong. And he looks at me, and he's like, "Oh, if I had one salesperson who was as good as you were that was here with me tonight, I wouldn't be sweating this bill." And I'm like, "Well, what do you do?" And he's like, "I run such and such car dealership." And I said, "Well, I'm looking for a job." And I went and started selling cars for him within like the next week. And my career grew from there. I started in sales, and then I moved into F&I. And then I was sales manager, a BDC manager, general sales manager. And, that took up about, 20 some odd years of my life across 2 different states.
Awesome.
And it was very exciting.
Awesome. It's well, first of all, thank you for your service. I should have somehow caught that somewhere along the line, but thank you for your service. It seems like everybody in automotive has some sort of like started here by accident and got sucked in and never left. And that seems to be like a prevailing theme. The biggest small industry ever, and I think that's a big reason why. So from waiting tables to F&I to general manager to all these things, how do you end up at Spectrum Reach? How does one end up there?
Yeah, I guess I wanted to kind of retire. No, that's not fair. We work a lot of hours in the automotive industry, and I definitely was feeling like I wanted to work like 40 hours. I wanted to work less.
Yeah.
And one of the things I loved about my position, once I made it into that, general manager position, was I got to build the marketing and advertising strategy and really look at it. And I loved that. So my husband, who originated from Sarasota, Florida, we were in Detroit at the time, said he was giving me like 3 more winters. And then we were going to have to, go. He was out. He was leaving with or without me. I was looking in the Sarasota area for like something along those lines, and I really had no direction. I just knew I wanted to do it, and I came across this ad for Comcast at the time, actually,
okay.
That said that they had a need for automotive sellers. They had a whole new automotive department that they were launching. And I'm like, I can do that. And I basically decided I had the job before I really had the job. And I packed up my car and I was driving down and I called them and told them I'd be there on Tuesday. Because in, dealership world, you get hired and promoted. Everything's very quick. It doesn't take long. Things are like now.
Yep.
So I thought I had the job. Apparently, in the corporate world, there's a whole process. I was on the process. But I told him I was going to be there Tuesday. And that gumption, I think, ended up getting me the job with them. And then shortly thereafter, Spectrum assumed the market that I was in.
Yeah. That's awesome, and I think that go get it is what Zach and I absolutely loved about you the first time we met you. Like this is awesome. Like this is so much fun. All right, so as a novice in the space that you exist, help me understand a little bit about OTT. What the heck does OTT stand for?
So yeah, OTT, it means over the top. That's what I feel to be here right now, right? I'm very excited.
I like it. Lean in. That's great.
So yeah, over the top is, it's referring to the technology that delivers video over the internet to internet connected devices, right?
Okay.
So that's like a really big space, and that's everything and everywhere now, right? So that's your phone, that's a tablet, that's a laptop, that's my refrigerator, for crying out loud, right? I mean, it's also most, not all, but most TVs in the living room now as well, which here's where it gets really confusing. I know we're talking about OTT today, and I know it is confusing for a lot of people. That one in the living room, that becomes CTV. Here's yet another acronym, right?
Yeah.
And then that's connected TV. And really the way to look at connected TV as part of that OTT universe is it's long form content or programs. It's TV. That's what it is. It's what you would traditionally consider like a TV program. The other part of OTT that is lumped in there and causes so much of the confusion, I think, for so many, is that short form content and user generated content, which is more of your social and your online video, that pre-roll. So depending on what providers you're speaking to or who you're working with, it can get very confusing if you don't know all the different factors that some people might put in their OTT. It'd be really great if we just called it streaming, or we just called it TV for that long form side. And then on the other side, we came up with another name there. But for right now, it's all lumped together in beautiful OTT.
Got it. Okay. Well, that certainly makes sense, and certainly an area with some rapid change. I can't think of an area that's likely changing faster than the way we're reaching people with content. So, given all that change, how has the media video landscape changed? What does this mean in day to day for automotive marketers?
Wow. So it's expanding. Like the video landscape as a whole, it is expanding. Like that universe, the landscape, it's dramatically altered what TV audiences look like. Viewers, like I mentioned, are watching anywhere and everywhere, for crying out loud. During, college football season, I love college football. I am a big golfer too, but I've got my phone where my scorecard's supposed to be, and I'm watching the game, right? I'm not missing the game.
Yep.
So you're watching anywhere. For advertisers like car dealers, this is creating a lot of fragmentation with their campaigns, and it's keeping them from being able to reach like the critical mass of audience viewership that they need, because it's so much fragmentation. And really the only solutions that there are right now is to somehow try to harness that fragmentation by simplifying audience aggregation, really starting to increase your focus on outcomes and understanding where your shoppers are actually viewing content. So those are things that have just become incredibly important in this video landscape of how and when people are watching. It's just the fragmentation portion of it and connecting it all together, extremely important.
Right.
Yeah. So Tara, tell me more about how a dealership figures out who they're reaching with whatever message they've put together through OTT or more specifically CTV.
I think a lot of that comes down to who they're looking to target. There's a lot of different ways that you can put your targeting together of who you're looking for. So you want to work with a provider that has access to high quality data and viewership insights, right? That it's not only safe, but it's reliable and it's measurable. So you need to make sure that they're valuable first party viewership insights, not only does that provide that for you? But they allow your data to work for you too. You can bring your data to that party in a privacy focused way, right? To that way to be addressably able to match your audience you're looking to reach. For us, our superpower that drives our one-to-one deterministic match is our first-party, privacy-focused household viewership data that we're able to provide with that data that the dealers themselves may have, wherever they got it from, whether it be their DMS, whether it be their CRM, whether they bought it somewhere, but being able to match that up in a privacy-focused way to our viewership data.
That's super interesting, and it really in line with a lot of the conversation around data and data activation in automotive and CDPs and all those things right now. I guess for me, not having necessarily that experience, how do you actually know who you're reaching with your message through OTT?
So not everybody deterministically knows for sure. What I can say is when you own the household, right? When you own the household and are able to do that, your provider is able to provide you saying that this is the audience you gave us. Here's how we reached them. Here's how we know we reached them, because we do own the household. And that's where I think a lot of areas they can, and that's where, when you look at it from probabilistic, I don't want to get too deep. When you go from probabilistic to deterministic, like I said, we're able to deterministically match, where a lot of others, it's more of a probabilistic match. Now, if people are bringing list match, I mean, if we match the list, we serve the list, you know that it was reached because we have that connection and it goes back and forth. Otherwise, a lot of times people are probably reaching your audience, but they don't necessarily own the household and know exactly who was served and when and how.
So Tara, in Wikimotive space, we do Facebook marketing, for instance, and we're certainly familiar with that from the standpoint of, you said first-party data and you said privacy-focused. Facebook has that kind of information on their users without disclosing it to the marketer. Like, they know what their audience is interested in. They know how to match an ad and its ad content to the end user, but they never show the marketer who that person is, where they live, or any information about them. Is it similar with OTT in how it works to be privacy focused, but also have first party data?
Yes, it's definitely, we've got a lot of, privacy for not just our sake, which obviously we have a lot of personal data that we're not going to share out exact information on, because we have agreements with people and that wouldn't be the right thing to do. Right. But for the protection of the dealer too, or any of our advertising clients, they have to watch PII very closely. So we use things like clean rooms to match up that data and make sure that we're using it in that privacy focused ways. And again, that is the safest and best way to protect everybody and people's personal information from going that route. But the ability with CDPs and MAPs for us to then be able to take that list match it to our actual one-to-one audiences and deliver that, and then be able to provide on the back side of that exposure data back to you and show where we fit into that customer's journey on your side, where nobody is giving any PII to anyone exactly, right? Yeah. But being able to see how your ad campaign performed, that's huge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so important.
I wonder if before we go any further, you could you used the phrase earlier a few times, own the household. I wonder if you could define that for us. What do you mean when you say that?
So this is one of my favorite things to talk about, actually, Dan, because I have a lot of people who come up to me all the time and they're like, cable's dead.
Sure.
And I'm like, right. And my first thing is like, well, actually, according to Nielsen, still over half of the population is watching there, right? And only 41% in the streaming or OTT space at this point. So it's not actually dead. And thank God I don't work for a cable company. I actually work for a telecommunication and technology company that also offers cable. So the reason I say all of that is to say this: we are the internet provider. So we are the ones who assign those IP addresses to the devices, to the homes. We're the one that update them. And that's what I mean by owning the household, because the IPs are coming from us.
That makes a lot of sense and ties all that together. I love that.
Makes sense for sure. So before, Tara, Dan asked you that question, you had mentioned earlier measurability for OTT. What are the measures for success? What is the KPI that a dealer can be looking at to understand, did my OTT advertising perform as intended?
So I really feel like that depends on the tactic. There's a few different ways you can use video, right? You can use it as an overall arching branding opportunity. You can use it as call to action and addressable. So, I mean, it depends on the tactic. If, let's say, you're running an addressable truck campaign, what was your goal? How many trucks were you looking to sell? Did you sell that many? Did you sell more? Did you sell less? What was the creative? Who was it speaking to? Like, how big of the audience were you trying to reach? How much of it went to OTT? How much of it went to search? How much of it happened because your BDC had a contest that month? I mean, so there's so many factors. So when I look at how to measure it, I don't look at as much calling it like attribution. I think that word's way overused. I like the term contribution, because I think there's a lot of different things along the way that add to that customer journey. And I think you need to be able to understand your customer's journey and what your play in it is. From the vendor or partner side, I would say we measure success by saying that we delivered you the right audience at the right time. From the dealer side, what I would say is when whoever you're working with whether it be us at Spectrum Reach or somebody else, you better decide what your goals are and what you deem success is before we ever run a campaign. How many trucks are you looking to move? How many leads do you need to make the appointments? And what is your closing ratio? How many trucks are coming off lease? And then for us on our side, what we can help you with, how many hours of content are truck buyers watching, and where are they watching?
Yeah.
Yeah. But setting up that expectation from the get-go to decide what success looks like, I think is the best way to figure out how to actually measure it, because there is so many things that go into whether it's going to be a successful campaign and the tactic itself is, it didn't do anything to anybody. It's just trying to, give you what you asked for and perform. It's what you put behind it that deems if it's successful or not.
And to that, and in support of that, in all areas, success is usually determined by good communication and expectation setting from the outset, because you can't skip that part. You can't. No. What are you expecting to get out of this? Because if you can't get alignment there and you can't have clear-cut objectives, then what are we pointing this at, and what do we hope to get from it? Yeah, that's certainly.
Yeah.
I think I wonder how OTT compares to other traditional or more traditional advertising method in terms of cost effectiveness or anything like that for auto dealers.
If done correctly, it's definitely way more cost efficient because of the precise targeting, right? One of the things I like to really bring up, and I think it's important to note when we're talking about, the effectiveness of it, people haven't changed. The tech has changed, right? Yeah. It's how we're watching and where we're watching. So the audiences aren't delineating anymore, or finding any difference between broadcast TV, cable TV, streaming, OTT, the app on my phone, the app on my TV. I mean, they don't delineate between any of that. They just know what content they want to watch and when they want to watch it and how they want to enjoy it, right? So I think the important thing when you're looking at cost effectiveness is really making sure that you have media that moves wherever your audience is watching, and that you're following that audience, and you work with a partner who can tell you how much time they're spending with each one of those different channels. And they are going to deliver seamlessly across it, just wherever your audience is. We shouldn't really care anymore. Was it on the ESPN app, or was it on ESPN cable, or was it on, Hulu's ESPN? We shouldn't care as long as it's hitting the audience.
Yep.
But because of the tech, it is way more precise, which makes it way more cost efficient as well.
Tara, can you tell us a little bit about how dealers should be integrating OTT, or how OTT should integrate into the larger construct of a dealership's marketing? What's the interplay, if any, between OTT and other areas of marketing?
I think it does interplay. I think if you're doing your marketing and advertising right, it should all be speaking to each other. You should have an overall strategy. And like I was saying just a moment ago, you should be following your audience through that strategy. If you have a provider that is giving you customer journey information, whether that's an MAP, whether it's a CDP, or whatever other alphabet soup thing that we can provide you that shows a customer journey, right?
Yeah.
Of all of your channels that you are using your marketing and advertising with. If you have that, it's going to show you how that is working for you and at what percentages. And you should feed what's working. You should change what's not. But in that, I think that I know that you should definitely consider, are you coming at it with the right message? Do you know who the right audience is, right? Do you have the right creative, especially if you're getting into that OTT space?
Yeah.
So the way you fit it in is understanding and working with people who can show you, here's your audience you told me you wanted to reach. This is how they're consuming media as a whole. When they're consuming it, how, where, and then follow that data. So people that work with me in my company, I think they've heard this so much, and you might end up hearing it a lot from me. I will continuously say, just follow the data.
Yeah.
Wherever the data is telling you that's consuming, feed that. And you put, proportionately in those spaces, because I think the whole strategy has to be connected to work.
Yeah, I can see the value in all that, and I would have to ask, what are the challenges that a dealer might face when trying to implement a solution like this? Because everything sounds great, but what is someone actually going to trip over when they want to try something like this? What does this look like to actually implement?
So the hardest part is picking an OTT provider. Everybody is selling OTT today, right? I mean, everybody. The newspaper sells OT, radio sells OTT. I don't know how so many people that have been in a non-video space now sell OTT, but they all do. I've heard people joke that they can buy it out of the trunk of a car. I don't know if that's true, but I wouldn't be surprised at this point. So that is super overwhelming, I think, for any marketer, whether it's in the automotive industry or any industry, to understand how they select who they work with, right? Because it is overwhelming. There's just so many different companies out there. But the first thing you want to do is find someone who's going to set you up for success, that's willing to transact with you and meet you whichever way you want, whether you want it to be managed service and you want every little aspect to be decided and you want that to be worked for and you want someone handling it, whether you want it to be programmatic, whether you want to target just geo, you want to do list match, you want to do lifestyle, you want to inactive, or not inactive, but active shoppers you want to go after. However they're going to meet you there, you want to work with someone who's willing to do that with you, someone who's going to show you transparency in the reporting. I think that's really important. I think at the top, I started talking about OTT and the different facets of it. And I think that's where it gets really confusing, because we hear OTT, we hear streaming, we hear CTV, and we think it's all the same.
Yep.
Well, it's not exactly all the same. Like I said, overarching that OTT space might have a blended CPM. A lot of vendors will provide blended CPMs. So you'll have that CTV, you'll have that social, you'll have online video, and it's all wrapped into a nice, neat CPM. Make sure that you're getting transparent reporting on that, so you know exactly how much is delivering in which one of those. Because typically what you will find is in the streaming or CTV space of OTT, there's more engagement and more time spent with it than there is on a social video ad that people probably are scrolling by, or a pre-roll that people are just waiting to click skip, right? Those have lower CPMs for that reason. They're priced that way. They're effective, but effective in a different way. They have lower CPMs because they don't have the same level of engagement. So making sure you understand exactly what you're buying, you're getting transparent reporting. And then this is a big word. This is my last bit that I'll throw in on this, is making sure it has interoperability, which means it's connecting all the platforms and all the tech together and all the transactions to seamlessly work together across all of your media.
Okay. So all of these things are nice, but coming from where you come from, some of these dealerships out there listening, and their BDC is the one doing their marketing right now, and like they don't have a creative team. Like we're talking about, content that is really built on creative. What are dealerships doing if they don't have a full blown creative team to be able to implement any of this?
So yeah, if they don't have a full-blown creative team, they're not working with an ad agency, they can work direct with companies like mine that do have the ability to sit down and go over all of it with them. And I know there's a lot of other providers out there that will do the same thing. We all have a little bit of difference. If you don't have a creative team, a company like mine, we do have an in-house creative team that understands how to build creative that can help you be successful. We also do A and B testing to make sure that one might be working over another one. And I always like to talk about, you're always fine-tuning it. One of the things that we were able to do to help one of our local dealers in one of our markets is he did have a company that was able to identify shoppers who came, previously unidentified shoppers who had come to his website, right? So he did have a company who was able to do that. They were able to, in a privacy-focused way, send us that list through a clean room, and we were able to match it to our viewership data. And what we were able to find is these people overwhelmingly that were people going to his website loved soccer, not just a little bit either. This wasn't World Cup season or anything. It wasn't. They just loved soccer, and they loved it so much they watched a ton of it in any language. They didn't even care what language. They watched it in streaming. They watched it everywhere. Now, I'm not saying that they should then make a soccer commercial, but it informed them about who their audience was and how to connect to them in a whole new way. So that our creative team, upon making a commercial, was able to implement kids coming off the soccer field and getting into a car, or, different things like that.
Okay.
So it is very confusing, but there are companies even outside of having that marketing team or an advertising company. We work with all dealers, large and small, and we can help them work through that and show them those different things. And we're not the only ones. There's others out there that are willing to walk them through. But I definitely feel like building the cheat sheet of questions to ask and in having those things that they know what to ask those providers is super important, because there's so much to understand.
Got it. Okay.
So Tara, thinking about ROI and budget considerations, a lot of dealers post-COVID are not necessarily cost cutting these days, but I hear more than ever before a concept of cost management. How can dealers be thinking about ROI when it comes to OTT so that they can better understand, is it working for me? And how can they be thinking about allocating a budget, and how do you define how you allocate a budget in the OTT space?
So I think ROI is very relative, depending, because I think I brought that up a little earlier. So much is dependent. You can't blame the tactic for the strategy. So I think it's, what one person might deem as super successful. They're like, this was amazing. They had great creative. They had solid messaging, and they had accurate targeting. That was fantastic. I mean, on the downside of that, this was horrible. Their creative was awful. The messaging was confusing, and we have no idea if there was a target. So, I mean, I think understanding that those elements are super important into the overall scheme for the ROI, for that deliverability, really defining who it is and making sure that you've got the right messaging, you have the right creative is really important. As far as figuring out how much to spend, I think that is, again, my favorite thing. Let's follow the data. Let's see exactly where impact is happening, as far as your customer journey and what's converting to sales, and play off of that and feed into it. What worked? Okay, we saw all of this. Who influenced that? Let's feed into that funnel a little bit more. And if that's OTT, that's OTT, right? If it is crazy, who knows? Maybe it's cable. I don't know. They feed into that. Or maybe it's saying search is just really, it's the workhorse and we put it there. But follow the data. If you're looking to really conserve and be more pragmatic with your spend and all of that, I think that's where these CDPs and MAPs are really making their mark. They're allowing you to see these things that we're talking about right now and make those more conscientious decisions and smarter decisions. So what you are spending is more effective. You know what size and share of the audience you're going to be hitting. And those are the questions you're going to be asking rather than, is $5,000 good?
Yeah.
I mean, every time I see someone say, yeah, spend 5,000 or just 10,000. What a random number. Where'd you get that number? That just seems really, really random to me. Anytime I hear whole numbers, I get really nervous. But I say follow the data. And that's, if you're following the data, that number's never going to be exactly that. You're going to have some rationale of how you got there, and it's going to be a whatever. You might want rounded up to a number just so it makes it easier to write a check. But I think where I would probably finish with all of this is, we all know people buy from people they like.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And if they don't know you, really, really can't like you. And the fastest way to build connectivity with any audience or any person is sight, sound, and emotion, and that's video. So video can be that space to really make you stand out, not only with branding campaigns, but also with call to action.
Awesome. We're running out of time for this episode. So for those in search of answers to questions they might have on this subject matter, Tara, how might they get a hold of you, or where might they go for more information?
I would say LinkedIn is probably the best place to find me. I am on there at least twice a day. Awesome. So I would say that would probably be the best way.
We will add it to the show notes post haste. So, well, Tara, thank you so much for joining us and continuing this conversation and helping bring some questions to those in search of answers around OTT. Thank you for joining us for this episode. We'll see you again soon.